Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Scagz and yours truly, the Captain. We have another episode for you today. We are streaming live, so make sure you leave some comments. We'll try and get to them. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. We're not only streaming live, but we will be doing a topic today that was submitted by a listener/viewer. That shout out goes out to Rose on that one. We got three main topics tonight. We're going to have to keep talking about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and that whole fiasco. We will be talking, our viewer submitted is Chuck Schumer talking about the Supreme Court and Biden's kind of proposed reforms to the Supreme Court. We got a video on Chuck Schumer on that one. And then we promised you we'd follow up with America's favorite welfare queen. Benjamin Netanyahu gave his speech last week to Congress. Man, there's been just so many things in the news cycle. What to choose from, dude. I mean, things are ramping up. The news cycle is ramping up. There's not enough hours in the day to keep track of all these things and talk about all these things. So we're going to have to get selective here with what we do.
I mean, even just in my research, it's hard. It's because like the media is on Kamala's ass. Like they got their marching orders, and it's almost like there wasn't an assassination attempt 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's gone out of the news cycle. That's interesting. You know, I've seen some people say, "Hey, if that was Obama that had that happened to, it'd be wall to wall for months."
I genuinely believe part of the reason there was a coup was to get Joe Biden out of office, get somebody else's name on the ballot, and change the news cycle. Trump was looking way too good, and they couldn't allow that, so they had to do something drastic. And just sweep that story under the rug because his life does not matter to these people.
Let's get right into it, man. Let's start off with the news. Why not? I know I sent you this before and you didn't get a chance to see it yet, but we've talked a lot on the show about Operation Mockingbird.
Yes.
I won't say anything else. Watch this and tell me if you think, dear
let's see what the Mockingbird word is.
Or if you think that this seems organic or not.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's where they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance. Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird. It's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird.
Vance as weird.
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
JD Vance, plain weird.
I mean, I don't know how else you could read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people.
The other side, they're just weird.
Being so weird.
Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
No matter what kind of weird stuff they keep saying.
Trump and Vance are just weird, in addition to being dangerous to democracy.
That's the weird part that's the most engaging.
Whom he addressed as my beautiful Christians, which was super weird.
Weird tech bro, JD Vance.
He's a weird guy. JD Vance, uneasy and sort of weird.
Frankly, for lack of a better word, that he's weird.
Sarcastic remarks that aren't even funny, and he kind of shows that he can't really deliver a one-liner.
So, Sam, weird is the word here in terms of initial impressions from Vance to the American public.
All right, shout out to Tom Elliott, man. He's the one who usually is involved with those supercuts of these things.
Boy, that was weird to watch.
Yeah.
Did this all stem from when he said something, when JD Vance said something like childless women shouldn't be in Congress or something like that?
Might be. I mean, they were referencing multiple different things JD Vance said. I wonder, though, if they got a memo that literally just said weird on it.
Like in big, bold letters, yeah.
At this point, like, it might be that 1984. If you have read the book 1984, one of the regime's objective was to just eliminate language altogether in the future, to where people just did exactly what the regime wanted it to do without even having to speak. Maybe they're at the point now where they literally just have to, not at that point yet. They're not at the 1984 point yet that Oceana was trying to get to, right? But they're at the point where they just say one word. They send out a memo with one word on it, and everyone gets the message and they know exactly what to do. They might put a little flavor on it each about what kind of thing they're talking about, but they know. They knew the word was weird. And I was laughing the first time I saw this, because I was just thinking back to like when we were a lot younger. We were like, let's get fucking weird.
Yeah, let's get shit's about to get weird. Yeah. Obviously Operation Mockingbird is real. Propaganda is real. You saw it play out firsthand here. But is weird really the best that they could come up with? Is this what's like, I question. I know it's nefarious in nature. We have proven that time and time again. But like, what focus group were they in where people were like, I wouldn't vote for Trump if his running mate was weird. I don't like weird people. Weird things weird me out. Like, this is the best you could come up with. Like, pretty sure your 2-year-old. Yeah. Right?
That it's nasty, skank, bitch, fugly, slut, whatever. That's going to be the next thing. You're either weird or you're Hitler. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's odd.
I mean, I guess they're trying to do like a softer attack, because like they can't like start with like the Hitler stuff right away and the threat to democracy, because then there will be pushback on social media. The man they just tried to assassinate him. We were just saying before the show started how that story is completely out of the news now. So maybe like they're just trying to, they're grasping at straws clearly, but like they can't get too Hitlerish because that causes violence,
Maybe there's something more to it, right? Let's go down the rabbit hole on this. Perhaps, now I don't know, the jury's still out for me on JD Vance if I like him or not. But maybe because he is very traditional in a sense, he seems to espouse traditional values and like a family and children and a God-fearing man. They are trying to signal to their base of people that, hey, those things are weird.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this guy is weird because he's religious and he has some traditional value. And it's not an overt attack on his family or his faith, but it's signaling to like this just, look, man, I like partying, music, having a good time and all that stuff, but culture in America has become completely degenerate, right? Yeah. So they are signaling to that base of people that has fallen down the hole of degeneracy in America that this guy is weird. You shouldn't like him at all. He's not like you. What's normal is what happened at the Olympics the other day. In the opening scenario. That's completely fine. But J.D. Vance, no. He's weird.
And that makes sense for their progressive values. And it's this weird approach because
weird.
Yeah, it is because Joy Reid just had something where she was praising and sucking on Kamala's asshole, saying if you're part of the culture, what?
There goes the monetization. That's all right.
If you're part of Black culture, or you identify with that culture, you're going to look real silly and real. She might even said weird, being on the other side when Kamala wins, knowing you didn't vote. I mean, straight racial, sexist identity politics. If you're Black, you must vote for Kamala because she's Black. If you're a woman, you must vote for her. If not, you're going to look real. You're going to look real weird. You're going to look real silly on the other side voting for Donald Trump. I don't think that's enough to really change people's opinions.
It is a very, like I said before, it's a Mean Girls take on the whole thing. It's not like it's the furthest thing away from any sort of political substance about like issues. It's literally like high school bullshit.
Yes.
I don't have a video queued up of Joy Reid, but hers are interesting. I suggest people go take a look at just how.
She's weird. She's deranged.
Again, she's supposed to be a news anchor that's presenting objective journalism to you on MSNBC. Like, obviously, that's not what she's doing, right? But that's what they're selling themselves at every day. But then if you go and watch her TikTok videos, she's literally using Mean Girls tactics to tell you, I don't care if the guy's half dead, we have to vote for Joe Biden. Like, it's the furthest thing from being an objective anchorman on news television. At least if you're in the podcast independent news circuit, like people will tell you outright what they are. Like I'll tell you I'm a libertarian, right? And you'll tell people you're a MAGA guy or whatever. They don't do that. They pretend that they're not a thing, and then they go on and tell you exactly what to do with no interesting substance behind it whatsoever. It really is just a complete mask off at this point. It
shows how people like Joy Reid and all these news anchors or whoever really is just giving out the mockingbird marching orders really believes the American people are just the lowest common denominator of stupidity.
Yeah, I know. I think that's exactly what they think. We're going to get into one of Kamala's campaign ads. I was going to say that I think this is all a very interesting psychological test on the American people, because in a sense, exactly what you're saying, they're banking on that. They're banking that everyone's going to fall for this identity politics stuff. And now I did say it would be useful, right? I did say Kamala was their best chance because they could lean into these things and try them out, kind of push all their chips into the center of the table with the identity politics stuff, like I said a week or two ago. I think it's a psychological test. Like, we're going to see if it's going to work or not. And we're going to see if, our majority of people are going to fall for this, or are they going to go, and some of them are not going to exactly like Trump. They go back, well, at least Trump is talking about a couple of policies, and then you could even throw RFK into the mix, who's only talking about policy all the time.
Which is weird.
Yeah, well, that's weird. Yeah. But hang on, let's go on to her first campaign ad. I have to toot my own horn here, because this is exactly why I said she would be an actual good choice for them at this stage of the game. And this is exactly what I said they do. So let me take my victory lap here.
The freedom not just to get by, but get ahead. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom to make decisions about your own body. We choose a future where no child lives in poverty, where we can all afford health care, where no one is above the law. We believe in the promise of America, and we're ready to fight for it. Because when we fight, we win. So join us. Go to KamalaHarris.com and let's get to work.
I'ma keep on running because the winner don't quit on themselves.
She's a goddess.
I will be honest too. Like,
wasn't a bad one. Wasn't bad.
It was on the subtle end of things too. It wasn't like that overtly in your face identitarian politics.
Yeah,
there were LGBTQ flags, and every single alternate person was a different shade of skin color. So it's there, but it wasn't as overtly. This is like they're just dipping their toe in the pool at this point. There's going to be 60 more of these things, and I think maybe we should critique each and every one of them as I find them as they come out.
I've been finding it funny. Just before we started recording, I was watching this clip of an interview, and this reporter was interviewing like 4 or 5 black guys, and they were like, who here knows somebody, another black man that has voiced that they are planning on voting for Donald Trump? And they were all like, all 4 of us have heard this before. And he said, okay, so now with the emergence of Kamala Harris in this position, has that changed their opinion? And all of them said no. I don't think this is going to work on the male population, maybe the female population, but I don't really see. I think not going to work on the Spanish community, but I think the black community has finally reached a boiling point here. They've been lied to considerably for decades now. They were lied to about Joe Biden. They thought Joe Biden had their best interests at heart. Inflation and the economy has killed the lower class and some of these poorer neighborhoods. And on top of it, after being told for years that this guy is the guy, he's, the best president ever, he gets knocked out. And now just because you replace him with a black woman, everybody's supposed to fall in line. I don't see that happening too much on a male spectrum.
I don't know, man. You didn't see yesterday the white guys for Harris thing that occurred?
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Look at those guys.
Let me see if I can. Give me 1 second here, folks, please. I wasn't planning on going into this one. It is in the queue, just in case. Oh, so here's what it is. It is called White Dudes for Harris Call Sign Up. Now, I saw a couple clips from this thing, and it's literally a giant Zoom call of over 50,000 white dudes. It's
the weakest of the weak.
Yeah. Again, it's the right. Like there is it, and it also is. It's the most steeped in race politics thing that there can possibly be. Now we're segregating our Zoom calls into white only people, white men only. It is something. I don't even know what to say about it, dude. It's just so weird.
These are the weak men that create hard times right here. This group.
Yes. It's the low status men, right? Who can't hunt. They can't fish. They can't lift any weights or do anything meaningful in life. So they're like, this is their avenue to do something meaningful. I went out there and I was a social justice warrior and I supported the first black woman of color president ever. Yep. And that makes me a good person. Like they didn't actually have to do anything though.
Yeah.
Was that?
They're doing it for the virtue signaling.
Right. And they didn't have to actually do anything. Right. No. So it's very similar to how during COVID, like low status people loved the idea of the lockdowns and like
staying home.
People stay out home. Right. Because then it gave them some sort of power over everyone else who's actually a productive member of society. Yeah. So this whole thing really is, man, just a very interesting psychological test on the country, which we've been going through a lot of those the last couple of years.
So let me ask you, do you have anything else that you want to cover the 25th Amendment, right?
Yeah, that'll be next. Yep.
You want me to ask my question now or after that?
Your call, man. Dealer's choice.
I'll ask it now. So I don't think this is over. When's the DNC? 2 weeks from now? I'm actually very excited to see the DNC. I think it's July. I think it's the week of the 19th, right?
It's
okay. So it's 3 weeks from now. Yeah,
mid-July.
3 weeks from now.
Mid-June. I mean, mid-August. Sorry, Jesus, I don't even know where we're at.
Was I saying July? I'm sorry, I meant August.
I said June, July.
Yeah.
August.
So I don't know if Kamala is truly going to be the primary nominee. I think, I just from seeing what's going on and getting a feeling and a pulse of what's been taking place, we knew they were going to go full racial, full sexist for promoting her. But she doesn't have any real legs to stand on politically. She doesn't have this illustrious political career. She visited. Elizabeth Warren was praising her for visiting an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
Yay!
Her big achievement. So
yeah,
far.
big achievement doing that. My gym's across the street from an abortion clinic. I've done more than Kamala Harris already has, and I just feel like, with the initial burst of Kamala Harris, she'll go up in the numbers. But over the next 3 weeks, she's going to have to do something. She's going to have to do things. Eyes are going to be on her. And they can make all these promos and stuff of, we don't lose if we fight, and nice catchy phrases, and there'll be transgendered people in the videos and stuff, and it'll be all warm and cozy. But then she's going to do something. And people are going to be like, oh, hell no. And I don't think she's going to be able to ride this wave into November. Trump's polls might have gone down just a smidge, and now CNN would think, the election's over. He just bowed out because he's scared of her. But nobody on the Republican Party is scared. No one in the MAGA Party is scared. Donald Trump's definitely not worried. This is a DEI pick, and saying that is racist. Cool, then I guess to each their own.
When we say it, it's racist. When
Yes.
they explicitly say it, it's not racist. That's
right.
What
I don't think come the DNC she's going to be the nominee anymore. They're going to need someone bigger, better name, something to ride that way. The only way they're going to win is to get this shock value and ride the wave into November. I was talking to somebody that I used to work with, and I had mentioned Big Mike Michelle Obama, and he's like, but she doesn't want to do it. And I'm like, think WWE. Like, you get the biggest pop out of something that's never going to happen. When, Stone Cold's going to come back, and then he doesn't come back, everyone's upset. And then Stone Cold gets on Twitter, says, no, I'm not fighting again. I'm too old, blah, blah, blah. And then WrestleMania rolls around, and that glass breaks, and his music comes on, and the crowd goes crazy because you thought you were never going to get this. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even though Michelle Obama is saying she doesn't want nothing to do with it, let's say she is a good person. And I think I heard this on, like, Dave Smith's podcast or something, or Tim Pool. I don't know. But they're like, let's just say they are good people.
Who?
Michelle? The Obamas. Okay. Yeah. Michelle rightfully says, I don't want nothing to do with this. And I don't blame her. Who wants to get involved in politics? It's crazy. But then her and Obama are sitting around that table, and the silence must be deafening. She needs to step up and be the hero, the Democratic Party. You know what I'm saying? Like, things can change.
Jon Snow, I don't want it.
Yes, exactly. And then we got wheelie, wheelie, legs, no feely. So
that's probably what's going to happen. Kamala Harris being wheelie, wheelie, legs, no feely. I saw Michael Malice was on Joe Rogan today, and he said that, we can't even talk about her being retarded because she is. And we, we're ableist then or whatever it is.
So you really think they're going to ride her out till November? Then I think
it's too. So many people have lined up behind her already. She's gotten the endorsement of everyone. The money was released from all the big donors, and she got like $200 million.
Which Trump is trying to sue them over, but I don't think it's going to work.
I think that's it. I think they pushed their chips to the center of the table, and they're going to go with this. And then if they lose, this is my point. If they lose, so what? She's a terrible candidate. Yeah. Burn her. We'll try
then
again.
I'm wondering. See, now I'm starting to get into your camp here, where the plan might just be to burn an absolute terrible candidate and just deal with Trump for the next 4 years, fight him tooth and nail on everything, and then reset in 2028.
That's why me and you, guys like me and you, want like lasting fundamental change. We don't want window dressing change because they're going to come back in 2028 if they lose this one and try again or whatever. Or they're going to try the whole time when Trump's president. I'm sure even every biggest MAGA supporter is going to agree that they're going to try everything while Trump's president. Like, they're not going to just magically go away. This is a fight, right?
Comply.
Yeah. So that is what it is. All right, let's get on to the 25th Amendment stuff. So, really interesting article came out by Seymour Hersh. If you don't remember who Seymour Hersh is, he's a legendary, one of the very few good journalists out there nowadays. He was the guy who broke the Nord Stream pipeline story about how the United States was the ones who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. So he broke a story with, inside sources, I guess you could say, about how how they got Biden out. I'm not gonna read the full story. I'm just gonna read two excerpts of it here. I'm gonna say so. At that point, according to Emily Gooden, a Daily Mail reporter who was in the traveling press pool, the president was deathly pale, and Air Force One flew at a maximum speed to Delaware. This is referencing the incident occurred.
The Nevada thing?
Yeah, I believe so. Like there was an incident upon Air Force One where he wasn't feeling good or something happened.
Right.
So we don't know for certain. Where the president has a weekend retreat at Rehoboth Beach. The press pool was told that Biden had COVID. Nothing more was said on Air Force One. After Biden's return to Delaware, the White House told the public that Biden had contracted a COVID infection and would be in isolation. He was said to have upper respiratory symptoms, a runny nose, a cough, and was fatigued. That was the last straw for a core group of congressional leaders, government officials, and some senior Biden funders who were withholding huge amounts of committed contributions. There was pressure on donors to come across on their pending commitments, the official told me. It was understood that Biden had a physical problem in Las Vegas, and the family was saying no to continued pressure from donors and senior Democrats in Congress to withdraw from the presidential campaign. Initially, the president could not be reached. By Saturday, July 20th, it is now, what day is today? It's the 29th, right? It's only 9 days ago. Former President Barack Obama was deeply involved, and there was talk that he would place a call to Biden. It was not clear whether Biden had been examined or just what happened to him in Las Vegas. The big three, the official said, referring to former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer. Sorry, I got my tongue tied here today, folks. I got a lot of reading to do later, so I better sort it out when we get to Scott Horton stuff. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries continued to be directly involved. On Sunday morning, the official told me, with the approval of Pelosi and Schumer, Obama called Biden after breakfast and said, "Here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment. The amendment provides that when the president is determined by the vice president and others to be unfit to carry out the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall assume those duties."
I have so many problems with this. One, how is this not a coup? That Nancy Pelosi what does she do now exactly?
She's not Speaker of the House anymore, right?
Right.
It's, Johnson, but she is kind of she's not like the minority leader either. That's Hakeem Jeffries. She's kind of like the person who everyone still considers the leader, but isn't.
So she has really no say in this, really. Yeah.
No, she did. She was one of the big three. I
understand that, but she doesn't have an actual job in Congress at the moment.
No, she has a job. She's still a Congress person. She's just not in an official leadership role. But she is. It's like the CIA officers who retire and then they go work for CNN, and they're like, well, they're a retired CIA officer. They're not still working for them.
I just don't see how it can't be considered a coup when four of the most powerful people in your party get together behind your back and coerce your VP into agreeing with invoking the 25th Amendment.
For those who don't know what the 25th Amendment is, again, it's literally the president's vice president and cabinet remove the president from office because they think he can't serve anymore.
Right.
Tried to do this against Trump.
Yes.
At the very beginning. Yeah.
And so that's my first problem with it. The second problem is, okay, so let's say they're above board. These are good people concerned for America. Joe Biden needs to drop out to save democracy, to save America. We have to invoke that's why the 25th Amendment is in place, correct? Because we got to save democracy and remove this president who is unfit to.
It makes sense. In reality, let's say the president gets a heart attack and then he's in a coma and he can't, he's not actually quasi alive at the moment. Then yes, you'd have to do something to remove him from office and put people who are actually alive in charge.
Now, my problem is, okay, you guys aren't criminals. You didn't stage a coup. You figured the big three plus Obama and Kamala Harris decided the 25th Amendment is the best way to do this. He is unfit for office. But since he agreed to step down, they don't need the 25th Amendment, and he is capable of running the country until January.
It's completely contradictory.
Yes, thank you, makes zero sense to me. 0 cents. What type of word salad, mental gymnastics can you prove to justify this?
Well, it's just proof that he actually isn't the president, right?
Yeah.
He's not. He's not really there making the decisions or anything like that. He's just a complete puppet, just a shell that they put there. And, now that shell, that puppet is outlived its usefulness.
Yeah, withered away.
He could still stay there and be still the puppet to some extent, right? Because it doesn't really matter now because they don't need to reelect the puppet. They're going with the other puppet now that's actually at least pretends to be alive to some extent. So that's all it is. It is, this brings to question the title of our episode. Like, who is really in charge? You're asking me about Nancy Pelosi and them. I mean, at least they're actually still in office.
Yeah.
Barack Obama is not in office anymore. He is not a member of government, yet he is the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. A lot of conspiracy theorists have been saying this for the past couple of years, that he is like the real president behind the scenes. He's the one pulling the strings. He obviously is to some extent. How much that is, I don't know. Right. But like, why? Why is it him? Why is he the guy that
Why
gets
is he
to make
allowed
this
to continue
call?
like this?
Why is he the one? Maybe they'll spin it as like, well, they were vice president and president, so he has like a tight bond with him. I don't know. But
Ken, I mean, if George Bush Jr. started helping out Trump behind the scenes, they'd burn Texas to the ground. I mean, obviously it's an unrealistic scenario because Bush is just as corrupt. Yeah. But I don't okay. So in 2028, Trump's out of office and whoever else is running. And now Trump starts calling into the White House to tell the president his opinion on things.
Right. Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine what they'd spin that as. Yeah.
Yeah.
He never really left office. He's still the president after all this time. J.D. Vance, is just his puppet or something. That's
weird. This is weird.
It's weird. It's weird. Yeah. Look, man, I think we could move on from this, and I think I'll just say that it shows that Obama still is a power broker.
Yeah.
He really is. Even though he doesn't have any official title, he really is to some extent or another. How much that is, I don't know, but he is definitely.
Yep.
Any other thoughts?
Just makes you wonder what that food server found out about Obama to be dead in his pond.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Man? You never know.
They found his body in a pond.
Yep. Let's move on. This is our fan submitted topic of the evening by Rose, who's on one of our episodes we talked about.
I was just going to say if it was her. Okay.
That we talked about when Pelosi's husband got beat up. Rose was on that one. So Rose asked us to, or at least sent me this one and was like, hey, you guys should talk about this one. So we will. This is Chuck Schumer. Hopefully this is going to work. And he's talking about the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court is a morass. First, it's an ethical morass. The idea that wealthy individuals, many of them right-wing, can both pay for cases before the court and at the same time give justices gifts or trips is outrageous. And frankly, Chief Justice Roberts isn't doing enough to curb it. But it's a morass in even a worse way. This is a MAGA right-wing court. It's already taken away the right to choose. It could very well go further on that. I fear it will. It's siding with the wealthiest of individuals and the powerful interests over the average working family. And it even threatens democracy when it says that a president can get immunity even for certain acts in the presidency. So this court is just a morass, both ethically and substantively.
I'm getting really tired of having to make these points all the time, that these people just are, projecting everything that they believe in.
He is the wealthy people that he's talking about.
The system of checks and balances designed by the founding fathers is now a threat to democracy. Again, democracy just means power to these people, right? I just want to say it's interesting how Biden is choosing to bookend his presidency, in a sense, with a Supreme Court fight.
Yeah.
What was the first thing Biden tried to do and went all in on when he first became president?
I couldn't even begin to tell you what the vaccine mandate.
Vaccine mandate through OSHA. Was any company, I believe, that was 100 or more employees, you had no choice. You had to get the vaccine, and the Supreme Court struck it down. Ironically, which Chuck Schumer here is saying that the Supreme Court is limiting your freedom of choice. In that instance, on the very first thing President Biden tried to do was take away your freedom of choice if you wanted to get the vaccine or not, back in 2021. a heinous thing to do at the time. I remember we did an episode called President Biden, the president is a fascist, right? Because it was straight out of, like a fascist move in coordination with corporations and whatnot. Now on the back end, the tail end of his presidency, now that he's a lame duck and he's got nothing else to do because,
so why not torch democracy on your way out?
Why not? Like these people who got in my way throughout my entire presidency, let's besmirch them, let's demonize them, and let's float out if we can actually change some of the rules on the court. I know, we've talked about for years now, the leftists wanted to expand the court. What's funny about it is any of these changes is going to basically take a constitutional amendment. I don't, how much work that takes. Like all this, like 3/4 of all the states have to agree to it, and all that stuff. It's not actually going to happen.
Unlikely.
The good news is it ain't going to happen. Right? It's not possible. He can maybe try an executive order or something, but then the Supreme Court will just strike it down. Right? So
this is a weird topic for me because I agree. I think everybody in Congress, down to lobbyists and unelected bureaucrats, should have term limits. And I think unelected bureaucrats and lobbyists should have an even shorter term limit than the people that appointed them. I like the idea of a smaller government. I like the idea of term limits, and I can't say I disagree with the idea of, you got to start somewhere. Term limits for the Supreme Court, fine. The idiotic part of this is only happening because it is a Republican majority Supreme Court. If the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't even be bringing up this.
I also don't even like the way that you frame it, that it's a Republican majority Supreme Court. Like when we always say it's a Republican majority something, I usually makes my skin crawl because they suck just as much as the Democrats do. I have to be honest, like this Supreme Court has done a good job. It hasn't been perfect on every single ruling, but man, there have been some big things, like I just mentioned before, the vaccine mandate, where they saved us. Yes. They really did.
Yes. Well, and now you gotta understand when they say, we're no strangers to this, and most of our listeners are not. When people like Chuck Schumer say a threat to our democracy, he means the democracy he wants, not the actual American democracy that we need.
Or just the power of government in general. Like he doesn't like that the Supreme Court has been a check the past few years on this rapid expansion of norms and power the government has had.
Exactly.
Right. So he's trying to, let's put, I think they floated out 18-year term limits. Right. Why would they want to do that? Because, well, then they can start cycling out these older conservative type justices and cycle in younger progressive types who will rubber stamp every expansion of government power over the next 20 years.
And a lot of people are saying, Kamala Harris does this, she doesn't become president, get a seat on the Supreme Court. Hillary Clinton never got to become president, seat on the Supreme Court. We could put some very dangerous people on there. But the reason why I bring up Republican majority is because the dumbest thing about the left, one of the dumbest things about the left to me is they imagine that the tides will never turn. The pendulum will never swing back. They're doing this because they want their people in the Supreme Court so they could get their, whatever, they could have the Supreme Court in their pocket. But what happens when those term limits are up and then it's a Republican majority again? The Supreme Court was so bad. They were so unbearable. The past however many years have been such a disaster. We can't allow this to happen again. And it becomes a Republican majority. Then what? Do we have to eliminate? It's strange to me that they think, unless they know something that I don't know, but they truly believe from there on out, they will be in power forever. And that's a scary idea.
That's part of their long-term play, though, right? Because they're changing the demographic of the country, importing the new voters, all that.
The great replacement.
It's it's not out of the realm of impossibility. I don't know. Some people are commenting here that the U.S. just bombed Iraq, but I don't know. I don't see anything.
Okay,
we'll keep an eye on it in the background. It also, again, just is another example of how the system isn't perfect. If they were able to do that, then that's what it would be. Right. Right. This is why I am an anarchist at the end of the day, because if they were able to change the rules and put in progressive justices in place, then yes, we will have the largest, even, we already have the largest government of all time, but it'll be even worse in the next 20 years or so. It'll be, the Soviet Union times 1,000 or something like that. So at the end of the day, these things are, as I say, just a construct. They don't mean anything unless people actually believe in them. And it goes beyond further than that. They don't actually even mean anything unless people are able to defend them or do something about them in order to defend them, right? So that's always just a lesson, especially conservatives have to keep in mind. So let's shout out Rose here. She says Republicans also make decisions thinking the pendulum won't swing back too. They're both short-sighted. Yeah, I agree.
Very true. I do not disagree with it. We're just,
but
we're talking because Chuck Schumer had the video.
Yeah.
So.
At the same time, I could push back on that just a little bit and say that things have swung so far to like the progressive side of things that it's not actually swinging back. We're just as Dan Crenshaw said that one time on Nicholas Giordano's podcast, like we're just being a speed bump for some of the progressive victories here. That's what they really are in a sense. Like if you think that Roe v. Wade being overturned is really pushing back on progressive degeneracy, like, pushing out to the states to decide who gets to kill a baby or not. Like, I mean, it's somewhat better, right? But is it really pushing back on progressive degeneracy? I don't really see it. I don't really see how that, charts out, as that big of a victory. It's big. Don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about in the grand scheme of culture and society and all those things. Anything else?
No, we can move on.
All right. Let's go on to our favorite welfare queen, someone who I should be claiming on my taxes as a dependent. That is Benjamin Netanyahu and the state of Israel, the largest benefactor of foreign aid of all time for the United States. He is giving an address last week to Congress. We're going to get into the substance of this, and Iran will skip, but I will give honorable mention to the fact that he broke his own record for standing ovations.
Yes,
in
you were very proud to have caught that.
Yes. And not only that, but it got so ridiculous, the amount of standing ovations and how often that they were, that he even told them, please stop clapping and listen to what I have to say. Because he couldn't even finish like 2 sentences without them interrupting him. And the guy's up there trying to give a speech and make his point about how we should go fight a war for them, right? But they keep clapping and interrupting him every 15 seconds. So even he had to tell him, calm down, man. Let me finish and make my point here. And then you could all, all right. So I got 2 videos from Benjamin Netanyahu. And then I want to read, interestingly enough, a little bit from Scott Horton's book, but we'll do that next. So let's hear what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
My friends, in the Middle East, Iran is virtually behind all the terrorism, all the turmoil, all the chaos, all the killing. And that should come as no surprise. When he founded the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khomeini pledged, we will export our revolution to the entire world. We will export the Islamic revolution to the entire world. Now ask yourself, which country ultimately stands in the way of Iran's maniacal plans to impose radical Islam on the world? And the answer is clear. It's America. My friends, in the Middle East.
It's us. We got to do it. We have to stand in the way of Iran. Go ahead. You want to go first?
I mean, I just have one comment. How are they going to spread Islamic extremists across the globe with no money? With no technology, with no world power level military, no military industrial complex to the level that like us or China or Russia has. How?
Yeah, it doesn't line up with reality. Are they also going to like overthrow China and instill Islamic radicalism there in China and Russia, like their allies? Are those places not part of planet Earth? They are. Also,
and they're not Islamic. So by your own decree, they would have to go as well.
Yeah, I don't foresee. Russia is actually pretty diverse religiously.
It is,
but when it comes to Moscow, they're Orthodox Russian Christian. And that is not changing, right? I don't foresee that ever changing. Outside of the, just absolutely outside of reality that somehow they're going to overthrow the entire West. And then, he's framing it as this struggle, which is the next clip we'll get into, of civilization versus barbarism, ironically. It just doesn't line up with reality. I also will, point to something I said a couple episodes. I think it was the Netanyahu episode where we were trying to gauge when he wasn't going to come here and make the speech. Where, again, from Scott Horton's book, it always points back to this. Scott's amazing. Where he was talking about how when the Ayatollah was making statements like this and talking about like the degeneracy of Western culture and things like that, like it didn't motivate anyone, any young Islamic man to go and commit acts of terrorism. Like blue jeans and Pornhub doesn't get guys to want to blow themselves up. No, it was American foreign policy, of wars and of meddling in their side of the world and killing people, and Israel's policy against the Palestinians. That is what motivated men to go and want to blow themselves up, not blue jeans and rock and roll music. As much as the Ayatollah might have wanted to say that, back in reality, it's actual United States empire foreign policy, along with the Zionist Israeli government's policy. It doesn't make Iran good, like it doesn't make Putin good, and all that stuff, right? But we're able to see through the bullshit of these sorts of just complete propaganda talking points. Got another video here of Netanyahu harping on the Iran thing. Let's see this one.
Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization. It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life.
Wait, pause it. So the way to stop people that glorify death is by killing them all?
Yes.
Okay, got that. Check.
For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together.
They do already. What are you standing up for?
You got to make sure. Got to make sure that he's just like Zelensky. He's got to make sure his checks are stamped. He's trying to frame this regional conflict that Israel has gotten itself into for the past, however many years Israel's
30,
been around.
40 years,
Like we talked about with Douglas Murray. It's the same thing, right? It's existential to civilization. Right, that's why you have to give us a blank check for the rest of eternity. If not, then you'll fall under radical Islamic terror. It's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. There's no roadmap to how that's even going to happen again. How? At the same time,
fear mongering.
Ironically, at the same time, these guys would be completely fine with shipping off every Gazan to the United States to live here to just get them out of their way.
Yeah.
So at the same time, keep that in mind, MAGA folks who want to support this crap. I also just found this ironic, given the conversation that happened in the Israeli Knesset the other day, which I don't know if I can even play all this. I'm still feeling that out, just how insane it was. But
yes, this is beyond violence.
So I'm not going to play the video because it's in Hebrew, so you can't really understand it. I'm not going to read it. So I'll just tweet here, which sums it up. It's on if you want to watch it, it's on our Instagram and it's on our YouTube Shorts. It's still there for now. The Israeli Likud Party, MK Hanush Mildwisky, I don't think that's how you say his name, Mildwisky, defends raping Palestinian prisoners with a stick if accused of being Hamas Nakba fighters. A shocking admission came from a Knesset member from Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party that raping Palestinian prisoners accused of being members of Hamas elite Nakba forces is acceptable. When MK Ahmad TB from the Tal party asked to insert a stick in a person's rectum, is that legitimate? The Likud member of the Knesset responded by saying, yes, if he's Nakba, then everyone is legitimate. Everything is legitimate to do to him. So what did Benjamin Netanyahu say? This is a struggle between civilization and barbarism.
Yeah.
Yet his own guys in his
barbaric.
own party. I'm not saying every Israeli or every Jew, because that's
Too
not
late. You're already an anti-Semite.
not the case. Even within the Knesset themselves, people were pushing back on this guy in the Knesset themselves. They're like, come on. If you watch the video, they're like, this is too far. What the guy's saying, right? But the guys in Netanyahu's Likud party are like, ram a stick up that guy's ass and, skull fuck him or whatever it is you want to do because he's a terrorist. Now, that guy, the guy's a terrorist. Do I feel bad for him that he got skull fucked by a stick? No. Right. But at the same time, you can't spin to me that you are not barbaric, or at least your party in Israel is not barbaric, when you guys openly support this kind of shit on top of the fucking carpet bombing of the place and tremendous loss of civilian life. It's insane. And this is all, again, on our dime, at the end of the day. So any other thoughts on that, Cap?
No, that was so there's the Geneva Convention, but I guess like other nations don't need to follow that, right?
No,
that's
real. What about
exactly? It's another construct. Yeah.
What about that Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq where they would, fucking electrocuting guys to death and cutting their nuts off and all that shit? None of that actually means anything. It's only those are only more constructs like to use against countries and places that step out of line in terms of the empire's wishes. That's all those things are. So Netanyahu, the grand finale, the grand theme of his speech was America has to come and defend Israel. And go.
America needs to spend more money. Just like Americans need to pay more in taxes to stop global warming.
It's a clash of civilizations. That's why you should care about it. What's going on here? It's not picking up. He didn't really reference much the nuclear aspect of this, but I'm gonna. Because it's in the background. People have been talking about missiles, Iran getting nukes. Lindsey Graham, of course, the most unhinged, insane person, warning that Iran could sprint to a nuclear weapon before an election, blames Biden failure. There's this fear-mongering for the past 40 years of Iran getting a nuclear weapon. There was the Iran nuclear deal. So I'm seeing all this. I'm seeing Benjamin Netanyahu's speech talking about Iran, being captain making plans. About what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this. And I happen to be at the same exact time reading, I've told you guys this before, Scott Horton's Enough Already book. Can't recommend it enough. If you really think, like, everyone at this point knows how bad the lies were about the war on terror and the war in Iraq, it's way worse than like the surface level understanding most people have over the lies. Way worse on every level, to the point where this is one of the most interesting books I've ever read, because I didn't even know how bad this was. But ironically, I was reading this last night, and the chapter I was on happens to talk about Benjamin Netanyahu, Iran, and why they want the United States to basically defend them and be involved in this war forever with Iran. So I'm going to read 2 pages here, folks. Bear with me, Cap. I know everybody's thing is my favorite thing on a podcast is when Scagz reads, but I thought this was interesting, and I wanted to get into it. So I'm going to start off page 113 of Enough Already. Scott Horton says, and for what are Americans supposed to make this sacrifice, the sacrifice of us defending Israel from Iran? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his then Defense Minister, the former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, admitted in 2010 that even if Iran were hypothetically to gain atomic weapons, the Israelis were not afraid the Ayatollah would attack them in a first strike, as they constantly tell the public. Instead, they were merely concerned that it would limit their freedom of action against other regional adversaries, such as Hezbollah, and would cause a brain drain of talented young Israelis to the United States. People might flee, right? Because they're scared.
And they also can't bully their other the other people they wanted to.
They're regional neighbors who are much less powerful than Israel's military is. Okay, so Netanyahu's immediate predecessor, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, told the New York Times that just as Pakistan had the bomb and nothing happened, Israel could also accept and survive Iran having the bomb. Former Clinton administration State Department official Jamie Rubin also explained in Foreign Policy that the problem was never an Israeli fear of a first strike by Iran, but Israel's real fear, losing its nuclear monopoly and therefore the ability to use its conventional forces at will throughout the Middle East. It is the unacknowledged factor driving its decision-making towards the Islamic Republic. Despite years' worth of war party propaganda about Iran to credulous American TV audiences, Rubin emphasized that for Israeli leaders, the real threat from a nuclear-armed Iran is not the prospect of an insane Iranian leader launching an unprovoked nuclear attack on Israel that would lead to the annihilation of both countries. It's the fact that Iran doesn't even need to test a nuclear weapon to undermine Israeli military leverage in Lebanon and Syria. remember, feel free to stop me at any point, Captain, and say anything or ask any questions. Remember that the next time you and your family are being told the U.S. has to go to war with Iran to protect Israel because the theocrats in Tehran are so hell-bent on destroying the Jewish state that they would be willing to start a suicidal nuclear war to get it done. This is why I decided to read this part tonight.
Yeah.
This is
because if Iran nukes Israel, they screw themselves over. It'd be like us nuking Canada.
Yeah,
you know?
Right next door. Also, again, this is literally, this book was written years ago. I think 2018, 2019, 2017, something like that. Scott Horton is referencing it. Remember, the next time you and your family are being told the U.S. has to go to war with Iran to protect Israel, this is exactly what we just showed you.
Yeah.
Right, what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. Israeli leaders and their partisans sometimes happily admit that they are not in danger of anything but losing the ability to start violent conflicts at will. Everyone in the U.S. government knows, but is forbidden to say, what has been publicly reported since the Israeli whistleblower Mordecai Vanunu revealed their nuclear weapons arsenal in 1986. Israel is the nuclear hegemon of the Middle East. Their government possesses more than 200 nuclear weapons and has refused to sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Vanunu confirmed the number to the author in 2018, the author being Scott Horton. American Enterprise Institute hawk Danielle Pletka did as much as anyone to support Ahmad Chalabi and his group's claims about Iraq's weapons. She conceded in 2011 that the real threat was that if Iran made nuclear weapons and then refrained from using them, it would undermine the Israelis and the neoconservatives' narrative of how crazy and irresponsible they are. These are very movable goalposts. So if Iran were to actually develop a nuclear weapon and not use it, well, then there goes that talking point for the right that they've been using for the past 40 years to try and justify, empire's policies.
Also, I like this understanding of if Iran has nuclear capabilities, Israel just can't bully the entire
region,
Middle East. Yeah, the
Which
region.
In a sense, they have nukes, and the region doesn't. Besides Pakistan, who hasn't launched any nuclear attack against them to date. Right, a little bit more here to go, folks. Iran's strategy after America announced their inclusion in the Axis of Evil and claimed they had a secret nuclear weapons program was to put their hands up, open their books wide, and shout to the whole world that they signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, have a safeguards agreement with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and remain within their international obligations. The IAEA regularly inspects all their facilities and continues to verify the non-diversion of nuclear material for military purposes, which renders America's pretext for regime change null and void. The U.S. and Israelis confronted the Iranians with 15 years of accusations, threats, and crippling sanctions over their nuclear program until President Obama finally negotiated the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, aka the nuclear deal, in 2015. Iran did not. I just want to point out. Hang on. I just want to point out that Iran is signed to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and Israel is not. So, you know what I'm saying. So while Israel is accusing Iran of making nuclear weapons that they will then use nefariously, Israel has nuclear weapons and hasn't signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is a treaty amongst all nations. We're not going to try and expand how many more countries have nukes. It's already bad enough. There's already enough nukes to eliminate the entire planet. We don't need more countries to have nukes. Let's cap it at how many countries have nukes right now. So Israel not signed on to that. Iran is.
Yeah.
Good. Question. I got one more page. And
just go for it. Yeah. If I remember what I was going to say, I'll shout it out.
Yeah. Write it down if anything. This is interesting. Iran did not require a new deal to prevent them from obtaining nuclear weapons because we already had one, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, like I was just saying. And they were already adhering to it, legally speaking. All the new deal really did was add an additional protocol and some subsidiary arrangements to Iran's safeguards agreement with the International Atomic Agency, blah, blah, blah. Still, the deal locks down Iran's civilian nuclear program beyond any other program in history. They poured concrete into the core of their heavy water reactor in completely disabling it and eliminating the production of potential weapons-grade plutonium waste, which they never had the necessary facility for reprocessing anyway. They scaled back the number of operating centrifuges, accepting new limits on the amount of low-enriched uranium they can stockpile, expanded IAEA access to include their uranium mines, and centrifuge facilities and signed up for processes that even allow inspection of their military bases. For this, they got some of their own money returned, which had been seized and frozen by the Treasury Department mid-weapons purchase during the 1979 revolution, and some limited sanctions relief. Yes, those famous pallets of cash were what America had owed Iran for 40 years. None of it was American tax money, as is usually said, that we gave them money. No, I think I even said it back after October 7th. Like it was their money that we allowed them to have back. With the Iran, the nuclear deal. So all the accusations you've heard in the last 25 years on this subject have been overblown. Iran is not making nukes. Their nuclear electricity program is simply based on opportunity costs. There is little demand on the international market for Iran's natural uranium deposits, but they can satisfy their domestic electric power needs with their nuclear facilities and sell their oil when they are not under blockade anyway. That actually kind of makes sense to me. If Iran has a nuclear program to produce power for its own country, one of their only products is oil that they could sell to the rest of the world. If they don't have to use their oil for themselves, they can export it and make money off of it, right? So it actually kind of makes sense. Like you're diversifying what they could do in the the world market. The worst one could honestly claim is that Iran has a latent nuclear weapons capability since they have mastered the nuclear fuel cycle and so could potentially make an atom bomb if they thought there was no choice. This is the same semi-ambiguous stance as the Japanese currently have. But Iran's policy has essentially been that as long as the U.S. does not attack them, they will not make the mistake of trying to make a nuke, which they know would provoke the U.S. to attack them. They have a civilian nuclear energy program wholly safeguarded by the International Atomic Energy Agency. We should all be happy to leave it at that. Yet, without the fake threat of an Iranian A-bomb serving as such a major obstacle, the U.S. has no real excuse for its continuing Cold War against them. That is why the Hawks were so opposed to the nuclear deal of 2015. It was only a first step, but put a real reduction of tensions back on the table. So that's it. That's what it all boils down to.
So it sounds like to me, Iran has been playing ball with America the entire time, while Israel has not. They have no real capabilities of creating. I mean, I guess they do have the ability, but they don't have any real, I don't want to keep using the word ability to create these nuclear weapons. And the funniest thing to me is 15 years of accusations, plus this was written in 2017, he said, here we are. So we're coming up on like 30 years of accusations.
40,
they're even better, 40 years of accusations, and nothing's happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
And we're still same
Netanyahu
song
has
and dance.
famously said they're 6 months away from a nuke. They're always 6 months away at all times.
Yeah.
Now they've gotten it down to, like I said before, Lindsey Graham said they could sprint. I think now they've made they could be 2 weeks. They can make a nuke in 2 weeks. Again,
Godspeed to you. Yeah.
If this narrative point is lost over them, that's it. Like there's all this rationalization, the weapons of mass destruction. It's crazy, bro. How many years has it been since weapons of mass destruction? They're still doing it. They're still doing it, just in a different way. They're repackaging it constantly for Iran. Iran's got weapons of mass destruction. We're going to have to go in there and overthrow the government, and because we didn't fall for that fucking lie hard enough 20 years ago, right? They're still trying the same old tactic. Very lazy, very easy.
Same playbook.
To do. What's that?
It's now a retro playbook, so they could bring it back, and it's a new tactic.
I guess so. Just you rebrand it with a different country. Although Iran is kind of the axis of evil, as they call it, right? Like they've had their eyes set on Iran forever. Look, again, this doesn't mean that they're good people. I'm sure, they do fund terrorism in the region. They do prop up some of the other groups and things like that. Although I've never seen any hardcore evidence, presented to me in the case of law of how they are actually propping up every single terror group in the area. I don't even deny that they are, right? But perhaps we don't have to spend 40 fucking years trying to overthrow their government, funding proxy wars when Iraq had fought them in the 80s, and Israel's, hostile policy towards them. Man, just fucking stay over there and we'll stay over here and do your Sharia law thing over here.
Well enough alone.
And we're going to do our liberty, love, and freedom American thing over here and just go our separate ways.
Blue jeans and Pornhub.
Can we try that, please? Nope. Once? Can we give it one shot? I don't think we're getting that with Trump. I think we're getting ratcheted up rhetoric from him against Iran. But I don't know, man. Hopefully behind the scenes, he's sending signals like, "Don't worry, boys."
Yeah, I don't really foresee him, storming the, Iran. But crazier things have happened. Why not?
Yep. Any other thoughts on that, Cap?
I just find I never knew that Israel wasn't part of what's the treaty or whatever. Yeah,
the anti-proliferation treaty.
Yeah, the treaty, and Iran is, which
it's kind of
when you boil it down to that, you kind of just sit back and look at Netanyahu and be like, bullshit, calling bullshit. I call bullshit.
Israel having nukes is an odd thing. It's like one of those things that everyone knows, but it's not like official. It's weird. Right. Like I don't know. It's almost like a group, as if a terrorist group, like you knew they had a nuke, but they didn't like put it on paper officially that they had a nuke. Am I comparing Israel to terrorist groups? Yes, maybe, but that's kind of like what it is at this point. So, any other thoughts on this thing before we wrap it up? Do tweets of the week and get out of here.
Let's do tweets of the week and get on out.
Do you have any videos?
The last one should be a video, but it's from Twitter.
Oh boy,
let me see.
My screen deck here is bugging today.
Yeah, the last one is a video. The rest shouldn't be.
Okay. Gonna start off with my first one, which is a truth, not a tweet, from Donald J. Trump on his Truth Social platform, where he tweeted last week after the Bibi Netanyahu thing. He said, looking forward, he did meet with Bibi afterwards.
Yep.
He said, looking forward to seeing Bibi Netanyahu on Friday, and even more forward to achieving peace in the Middle East. DJT. And what was odd about this is that he tweeted a photo of a letter sent to him by Mahmoud Abbas, who is like the president of Palestine in a sense. Not really the president of Palestine. Palestine isn't a real country, right? He's kind of like the guy in charge of the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority. And it's a letter from him years ago. Actually, it's a letter from him not long ago. From I think this is after the assassination attempt, July 14, 2024, from Mahmoud Abbas. He says, Your Excellency, it is with grave concern that I have received news and later on watched footage of your attempted assassination. Acts of violence must not have a place in a world of law and order. Respect for the other with tolerance and valuing of human life is what must prevail. Despicable acts of attempted or successful assassinations are acts of weakness with failed understanding of peaceful measures to resolve conflicts. Differences must be resolved through communication with freedom of expression. Our thoughts are also with the families of those who lost their life and were injured. Wishing your strength and safety from Ramallah, Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine. That's interesting. That is an interesting truth post. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. What do you make of that, Cap?
It's strange. But I mean, it's everybody's just doing their part. Trump does have a part on the world stage, and people do respect him, and this was it was the most extreme thing that could happen to him. So I just take it as a regular, get well soon type of letter. We saw what happened.
I'm wondering why he put it in with a tweet saying, I'm looking forward to meeting Netanyahu. We have covered extensively on this podcast. Netanyahu has no intention of making peace with the Palestinians.
Right.
His only intention is to actually take over the land that Abbas sits on, the West Bank, as I've talked about, Judea and Samaria. So while saying he's looking forward to meeting with Netanyahu,
maybe this is something he wants to talk about him with.
A letter by Abbas, it's like two contradictory things in the same tweet. It's interesting. I don't know what he means from it. Maybe it's a veiled sort of threat, political threat towards Netanyahu, or something. I don't know.
Or saying read your adversary's words. We need peace.
Maybe it is like maybe he's showing everyone like, look, there are guys who want peace over there. Maybe we should try and make peace and not just carpet bomb everyone to death
and let dogs eat children.
Yeah, and stick sticks up people's asses. Yeah. Here you go, Cap.
All right, from Hakeem Jeffries. President Biden is right. The extremists on the Supreme Court are totally out of control and must be brought to compliance with the Constitution. No one is above the law. My problem with this tweet is the last sentence. No one is above the law. Because if somebody believes they are above the law, they go to the Supreme Court to figure it out.
Yeah, but they need to control that process because the Supreme Court's out of control because they're telling you they're they're legislating the process for them. Yeah, man. More of this projection, more of this nonsense. These things are getting so boring. How many times we have to point this crap out?
Oh, I know.
These projection things that these guys do really is getting boring. All right, my next one is from Axios on Twitter, and Axios tweeted the Trump campaign and Republicans have tagged Harris repeatedly with the border czar title, which she never actually had.
Oh my God,
Yep.
not this shit again.
Now, this is one of those ones I picked because of the community note, which says Axios themselves used the words border czar in 2021, referring to VP Kamala Harris. Harris, appointed by Biden as border czar, said she would be looking at the root causes that drive migration.
That's one of them that really drives me nuts. She's the fucking border czar.
Yeah, I very clearly remember that being the terminology used.
So do
at
I.
the time, years ago, when he, oddly chose her to be the person in terms of the border policy. But now the memo went out to all the corporate press places to ignore that term because it makes her look bad. Like on an issue of substance, the border. It does make her
one
look
of the
bad.
top two biggest issues in the country facing the election. Yeah.
So that's why they're pretending like it never happened. All right, my next tweet is by Elon Musk, and he's replying to Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is talking about manipulating a voice in an ad like this.
That's one of mine.
One should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. So Elon Musk retweeted like a spoof Kamala Harris campaign ad.
Mhm.
So Elon Musk says, I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Sugandi's nuts, and he said parody is legal in America.
Pretty sure that's my
was pretty
third
fucking-
one. So
Is it? There we
Yeah.
go. Some crossover. I thought it was pretty fucking funny by Elon Musk. And anytime somebody dunks on Gavin Newsom,
it's always a good
appreciate it.
time.
Yep. All right. Let's see. What do you got here?
So my next one is the New York Post cover.
Let's see. Is this cat turd? Boy, this thing is
So
not working good for me today. Hang on. There you go.
Okay, yep. Today's New York Post cover. It's a picture of, the famous picture of Trump with his fist up and the blood coming down his face and stuff. This was a topic that I wanted to talk about, but we had so much to talk about today. I was like, we can't even cover this. Meta and AI and Facebook and Google are saying this isn't a real picture, that it's doctored. That the assassination attempt said that the shooting never happened, falsely claimed pic to be doctored, and downplayed the news in search. Are you kidding? I mean, war. When there's a phrase that I've wanted to use on this show for a long time.
You already got demonetized. I actually did check this out. So not only did they do that, but
when you type in Donald Trump,
yeah, let's see if it's still happening.
It is. I looked at it before.
Okay, it comes up now, but I tried this yesterday, typing in
This-
Donald Trump assassination, and it wouldn't come up.
wow.
It literally, like, if you typed in Don, like if you just started like typing in letter by letter, the suggestions wouldn't come up. They might have fixed it now after it got
here.
got
Type
pointed
in
out.
just Donald Trump and press search. And the first thing you see, oh look, there's Kamala Harris. Scroll down. News about Kamala Harris. Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That Google is inserting her into searches for Donald
Everything.
Trump.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so where we live in, these social media companies and big tech, they can like try and manipulate your perception of reality.
So I'm pretty sure that third one is the suck on these nuts one.
Is it? Is this another cat turd one? You do have an okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Suck on these nuts.
Okay, this is
the exact one you had. Yeah.
Okay, you got
And
one
my
more.
last one is a video.
Okay, of course. Hold on. Got to stop screen sharing it this way. And I got to screen share it the other way. Otherwise, guys aren't going to be able to hear it. Oh, I just saw this actually.
Yes.
Listen, I don't adding to your gun control agenda. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but I mean, listen, I don't think we lack for great ideas. As I've said many times, we've been having great ideas for decades. The problem is that Congress has not had the courage to act. And that is why, from the beginning, I have said my agenda includes attempting to get Congress to act, but if they don't within the first 100 days of my administration, I'm going to take executive action. Because what we need is action. Adding to your gun control agenda?
So what she is referencing about this executive action that Congress is too scared to take is confiscating weapons from the American people. And this is another, I mean, this is one of those boogeyman. This is a talking point. If they actually did this, they wouldn't, they would just be down another talking point. They, you know, they wouldn't have anything. They wouldn't have the Second Amendment to run on or anything. I doubt it's going to happen. But I mean, she has been running for 2 weeks and is already threatening to disarm American citizens.
I saw this one before. It's actually an older video, but
oh, it is.
It is, yeah, like from a year ago. But
Okay.
yeah, that probably would be one of her chief policies. Like the nuance of her administration would be things like this. On top of the like, let's go after the courts and try and get them to do what we want. Then let's pass executive orders limiting your right to bear arms. You don't think like those things are not intertwined and coincidence? You know, because if she did go and do something, let's say the courts don't change, Biden can't do anything to change up the structure of the court or anything like that. The court remains exactly the same. Kamala Harris becomes president. She then tries to do an executive order banning AR-15s. It goes to the Supreme Court. They strike it down. Right, but if they change the Supreme Court ahead of time, it doesn't get struck down. Right, it gets approved, and then because this is all just a construct, so it then becomes the law of the land, and they could send police to your house to try and take your guns away. Yes, so I don't think that's what's going to happen. Gun rights are going in the opposite direction, but that is the plan. That is what they are trying to formulate here.
So this idea of changing up the rules of the Supreme Court, so Biden passes it. Does that mean like just everybody's out of the Supreme Court? Like, or does their new term limit start that day and then they get, you know what I mean? Like, or was it time served? And if you've served more time than the, you know, the new term limit, you have to retire.
Some of them have been in for 18 years already. That's a good, that's a good question.
So I wonder what, because now if the law, you know, he gets this passed tomorrow. Cool. So everybody who's over 18, they're gone, or in the next 18 years. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like most of them probably have been in there for 18 years. So like imagine if he passes this and like, it's okay, everyone's out now and I get to pick all 9. No, well, not all 9, right? Some of them are much newer, but if like he gets to replace like 3/4 of the Supreme Court, and then they go and pass these laws and things, and they become the law of the land. And then they take your guns away, and then you're fucked. Right? Because then you don't have that leverage point that's the most raw, primal way humans have to defend their freedom. Violence and guns. It's part of life. If you don't have it, you have no freedom, right? Like everything is enforced at the barrel of the gun. The government is enforcing their rule on us right now by the barrel of the gun. The only thing I've said this a million times on the show, the thing that's interesting and unique about America is that we have a decentralized version of the monopoly on violence. Where like they have a lot of guns, they also have the nukes, but then we have more guns than they do, in a sense, like the people in America. And that causes this weird scenario where like the balance of power is distributed and they can't just roll tanks easily on you. They might try and do it, but it's going to come at a severe cost. We don't want to lose that, folks. It's a foundational concept to liberty and freedom. If we lose it, we're in big trouble.
And, you know, some tells me rolling tanks on us ain't out of the question with what we've seen over the past several weeks.
They keep taking, a couple more shots on the chin, a couple of losses, man. I don't know. Like, is that something they might, I don't think they would outright do it.
The election?
I don't know if they'd outright do it. It would be tied to some sort of military intervention somewhere else. So, like, Russia's invading Alaska, roll tanks on the streets, and something like that. You know, I don't think with this regime, it's not the Soviet Union where everyone knows what they are.
Yeah, that
they
they're
play
the bad
this
guy,
game that they're not the bad guy. It never is that outright, and I don't think it ever will be. They'll always portray themselves as the hero, the good guys. It's for your safety.
Solution.
What's that?
They'll create some crisis to be the solution.
Yeah, they'll never just roll tanks and be like, "That's it, you were right. Scagz and Cap were right all these years. We're the bad guys." You know, like, and Kamala's going to get up there. No, they're not going to say that. It's for your protection. It's for your safety.
That'd be crazy to see Kamala being like, "The two men were right. They knew all along." Roll tanks.
They'll convince you to try and come serve in the military for them at the same time. Like they'll put out the full propaganda wheel on that one. So I think we'll end it here. This is a little bit over time as we've been doing lately.
Hour and 20 minutes.
A lot of stuff to talk about lately, man. A lot.
Yeah. Wild times. What a time to be alive. All right, Doom Nation. Thank you guys for listening to another episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. I know we did. As always, make sure you get out there and like, share, and subscribe. And we will be back with you. Well, I will be back next week with a new episode, hopefully with the Samurai Garrett. Scagz is taking a little family vacation, and then I'll be joining him out there. So we will be back soon.
Adios.
Bye-bye.